Yeah, we got Miami, we got Indiana. I will say a big theme from Miami, at least when you're watching the docs, right? Like the U dog. You all know what I'm talking about, right? There's one theme that always transcends all the eras, right? When you're playing a game that's really important and means the world to you, you do not want to play the Miami Hurricanes historically. That's what scares me going into this matchup. I don't want to give bad vibes, but historically, Miami has played spoiler to a lot of teams. I'll give you an example. Pac-12 memory of the week. We're going back to UCLA. The year is 1988 or 1998, actually, the year I was born. I've actually told this story before. Preseason, Indiana or UCLA and Miami were scheduled to face week 1 in Miami. It got rescheduled to the last week of the year due to a hurricane. September, August, that's hurricane season, right? So it got moved down to the later to basically what we know as championship week. Nowadays, moved to the last week of the year. They played Miami after the USC game. You know what I mean? Like, talk about a letdown week, a potential letdown game. Like, Miami wasn't even that good that year. They were 9-3. They were 8-3 going into that game. 8-3, 8-2, something like that. Maybe they're like 7-3 going into that game. Anyways, they go into that. It's a shootout. Adrian James rushes for like 250, 300 yards on the ground, and they beat UCLA 45-42. UCLA team that was undefeated, they win. They're in the national title. The first ever BCS national title game. They win that game. They're in that. They're in that first ever national title BCS game. They go in there, and Miami just runs it down their throat. And Cade McNown and Farmer wasn't enough to keep up with what Adrian James and that Miami offense was doing that day. That's a little short story for you. Ever since then, UCLA has been dormant, an absolute afterthought in the college football landscape. Would hate that for Indiana. So going into it, there's a lot of, I love setting the table like this, Keezer. I love setting the table in a negative light because I know you're going to bring it back into a positive. That's kind of our yin and yang here, where I'm always trying to figure out I think it's a new segment since a lot of these previews we go in like, yeah, we're going to beat the piss out of Maryland. Like, why are we even doing a podcast? So I think so now moving forward, it has to be like, what concerns me about this game, right? That's how I'm going to approach. Like, what I know our boys are going to show up. If they don't, that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother issue. Like, what concerns me about this game? Miami lore, number one. Just the fact that
I'll stop you right there because, I'll just like that's Brad, and if that's the number one thing that scares you, then like we're gonna have a really enjoyable conversation about this football game because the entire narrative that we've been fighting the entire year is that history doesn't play football games. And while I actually really like this Miami team, like Jacoby Thomas might be my favorite non-Hoosier to watch in the country. Like that dude's a psychopath. To go pick all your homeboys off the turf or whatever he said at the end of the Ohio State game. He was laying wood to everybody. It's like, how do you not like watching that kid play? Obviously, Mesidor and Bain are monsters, game wreckers. Heatherman is a defensive genius. You had Kurt Signetti say he's one of the greatest coaches he's ever been around. Cristobal is an offensive line guy. The offensive line's the engine of that team. Me and you were having a Mark Fletcher discussion, and I'll tee you up for Fletcher in a second. But he's obviously unbelievably good at what he does. And then the most surprising part about their football team has been the play of Carson Beck. He's been great. And not that he's like he was Georgia's starting quarterback, right? And lost his job because he got hurt and he lost the locker room. But for Miami, he's been great, especially in this playoff run. And like he wasn't good against Louisville and he wasn't great against SMU. But that Carson Beck hasn't shown up in the playoffs, and that's been a huge reason why they've been so good. But I want to tee you up to talk about Mark Fletcher.
Oh, yeah, you're teeing me up. There's a lot of things that – first, the Miami lore scares me. The second thing that scares me is how much this team is similar to the likes of an Ohio State and specifically like how they're built like in Iowa. They're like an Iowa on steroids. They got this mean trench play, both sides of the ball, O-line, D-line, right? They got prospects out the wazoo on both sides in the trenches. They got tons of talent. They've been executing really well during these playoffs and been laying down the dominance on that front. That's why they beat A&M. That's why they beat Ohio State. That's why they beat Ole Miss, right? And then on the other side, the quarterback is just good enough to complement a very strong run game with a running back that might be the best running back we see all year. That's what you're teaming me up for. I think Mark Fletcher, watching him in that Ole Miss game specifically, obviously we saw it in Texas A&M where it's like, okay, like this guy's a stud. You know, is he an everyday back in the league? I saw this one play where he literally made this Ole Miss guy somersault, just running over like he wasn't even there, like a fly on a zebra's ass, like just non-existent. And I'm like, that's a guy you can get 15 carries a game in the league for sure. Like Mark Fletcher is, he is their whole run game. They don't actually, you were telling me they actually don't get that much push, which is surprising because Mark Fletcher probably gets like 5 yards a carry.
Well, no, I don't want to say that, but their success in rush is like not very good. I think it's like 87th in the country according to the chart that Taylor from Bite Size Bison puts together. And his last Bite Size Bison, I believe, came out today. But it might not be out yet. But yeah, their success in rush percentage isn't great. And what that tells me, the other thing that he was putting out was that Mark Fletcher gets 50% of his yards after contact. And actually, funny enough, Indiana is the better after contact rushing team than Miami. But that tells me that Fletcher's been unbelievably good, and his ability to make guys miss, break tackles, not fumble the football, and just like you want to talk about wear and tear. Like that's like these two teams play a very similar style, right? They both want to run the football. They both want to be extremely physical. Like Heatherman is from the Signetti tree. He was JMU's defensive coordinator for 3 years. Like this is going to be a very, very physical football game. Pads going to be popping, and like guys are going to be looking to set the tone.
100%. And like we always talk about, the way to beat this Indiana team is controlling time and possession. This is a team that can do that. They can get you 3 and outs, and they can run the ball. They can get negative plays with their pass rush to result in 3rd and longs, which get your offense off the field. And then they're going to be able to pound the rock with Mark Fletcher. And you know, Beck's not going to do anything super flashy, but he's gonna manage the offense in a way to where they're going to have long drives and they can sustain drives, right? And he's going to make enough plays. Maybe he can't shove it downfield, and maybe he's not this QB1 franchise quarterback, but he's played a lot of football, and he's probably going to be in an NFL quarterback room for longer than you think. He's very talented. He has a lot of a very good build to him, very good arm strength. Maybe isn't the most accurate past 30 yards as maybe a guy with that build should be, but he at the college level, he is just enough to get a national championship. Always has been. That's why he was such a hot commodity in the portal. That's why he was at Georgia. We talk in the glory years. Like he was a 5-star recruit. What are we talking about here? Yeah, this team is built in a way to where if they play it right and they don't make mistakes, they can give Indiana a game. They can. And they can make this scary. They can make this like an Iowa type game, which is what I would expect if we didn't beat the last 2 teams we played in the playoff by 35 each.
Well, I think the other thing that neither of us have mentioned, the other thing that neither of us have mentioned yet, and he obviously heaped a lot of well-earned praise on this Miami defense and this Miami team, they get penalized a lot. They average 10 penalties a game. I think it's 7 on defense and 3 on offense or something like that. And Indiana averages like 3.5 a game total. You just can't give extra opportunities to this Indiana football team. And if you're just going to make stupid mistakes, and I saw a couple Miami fans, and obviously it's exaggeration, like spend a lot of time on the internet, you come across people, but they're like, Miami's going to have 300 yards in penalties and still win this football game. It's like, no, that is exactly how you get a recipe for disaster. If you're going to put yourself behind the sticks, you're going to give Indiana free first downs, you're just going to let them control the clock. Because for as slow as Miami plays, Indiana plays like doubly as slow. For as good as Miami's playmakers are, Indiana actually has the more explosive offense. So it's the physicality, I think, is going to be a huge factor in this game. And the other thing that, like, the way you beat this Indiana football team is with crowd noise. Like, we talked about Iowa, who has an elite defensive line, elite defensive coordinator, but they're also a different team away from Kinnick. We talked about Penn State, unbelievably talented individually, didn't have the season they wanted to, but what was the biggest issue in that game was the communication. Look at what happened when Indiana went out to Autzen, the false starts, the stupid offensive penalties. Like, that was one of the main reasons why Oregon was able to stay in that game. If Miami's just going to give free plays to Indiana over and over and over again, like, it is a recipe for disaster. So I think that's actually something that they're probably going to be harping on, is like, we need to play, like, Miami has to play a perfect football game. Indiana just has to play the football game.
Exactly. And yeah, they have to step up. Indiana just has to do what they've been doing. That's the edge that we have going into this game. Now, it's a championship game. It's one game, 60 minutes. Winner takes all, right? Like, Miami can put in 9 days of really good prep and come at it really well. It's funny because when you think of Miami, you think, oh, they're going to the flashy outside guys. They got the quarterback. They got Vinny Testaverde dropping back and throwing deep to Michael Irvin or whatever. You know, I don't think they play at the same time, but I'm just name dropping guys. That's what you think. When they're the exact opposite. They're pound it, win in the trenches. We're going to dominate on the outside, especially when we're on offense, and probably when we're on defense too. I know, they got Miami athletes. It was enough to get them this far. We got 3 NFL receivers and EJ Williams and Roman Hemby and Kalen Black. We got great weapons. This isn't a knock to Miami. This is more so like, you guys have your work cut out for you, and I hope you guys, play the game of your lives, because you need to stay in it. And they have the athletes there, like, but so did Miami, and so did Alabama, and so did Ohio State. Like, none of it really matters until you show us for 60 minutes that you can keep up. And a team hasn't really shown us that since Penn State. But yeah, I mean, if you want to understand how to beat Indiana, you put on the Ohio State tape and you put on the Iowa tape and you try to figure it out. Because that was the closest to it. I think the Penn State game was an anomaly. I think that was just a well-coached offensive play called game. Like, I think that a lot of that had to do with being in Beaver Stadium. You can throw on that tape too. Penn State's super talented. More talented than probably Miami is, right? And it didn't seem to matter toward the end there. It's just, I'm just so confident in this team, their ability to show up, for Indiana at least, their ability to show up in the biggest moments and play their best, especially at our quarterback position, where it seems like he elevates when the lights are brightest, which is something we've talked about for a long time now. It's felt like damn near a whole year since he committed.
I think that's a good segue, Brad, because the one thing that Miami fans have been doing and trying to build their confidence off of is doing football math. And they go, we played Fernando Mendoza last year. And if you look at Mendoza's stats from that game and the way he played, he was really good in that football game. And they go, we beat Ohio State worse than Indiana beat them. And it's very funny to hear the football math argument come from Miami when the entire season they spent combating that argument with the Notre Dame fans who are going, look at the way we beat all these teams, the same teams you guys played, but what's more important is how you match up head to head. So I'd caution doing the football math. And that's not to say, like, Miami's an extremely well-coached team. They're talented. They're physical. Like, they're
playing their best football right now, which I think is important to say.
But they're 8.5-point underdogs for a reason. And they haven't, like, I think SP Plus has it at like an 80% chance. Like, the metrics love Indiana for a reason.
Because they execute and they don't make mistakes. And when you do that, the computers are going to love you.
Obviously, real quick, though, Miami, their offense starts with the offensive line. When they're able to protect Carson Beck, he's a different quarterback. They're obviously maulers. Is it Maigo? I can't. The consensus, I should know how to say it. He's going to be a top 10, top 15 pick in the NFL draft. Was a consensus first team All-American. He's one of the best tackles in the game. Like, he's unbelievably good. Obviously, the guy Markel Bell across from him, that's been made of their size. We'll see if they're able to keep up with the lateral quickness of Indiana. But Cristobal, like you said, he's a trenches guy. This game's going to be played in the trenches. Both teams are very comfortable there. It's if people are looking at this and looking at Indiana's offense and thinking about the U and going like this is going to be 45, 50 and high scoring and shootout, and that is the wrong impression of this football game. Like this is going to be low scoring. It's going to be physical. It's going to be another under game. Like both of these teams do not want to go fast.
It's going to be an under unless Miami allows us to, unless the dams break for us. Like there's just no way Miami's going to be able to put up more than 30 points on us. There's just no. It's first to 30 wins this game, and I don't know if Miami can even get the 20. To be honest, like I'm trying to give him some credit here. I think Malachi Toney might be the best outside web. We played Jeremiah Smith, so I take that back. But Malachi Toney is going to be the best true freshman outside guy we've seen all year. DeCorey Moore is really good in his own right, but Malachi Toney, just the way they use him, whether it be in the reverse game, sweeps, getting him outside in space, the way they're able to set him up for success specifically sets him apart from DeCorey Moore just in terms from a matchup standpoint. Like they're going to try to get Malachi Toney in space and allow him to make some plays, which if we allow him to do that, he will make a play and he will run past our DBs and score. Like that will happen if we don't 11 guys. If one of the 11 guys doesn't do their job, that those things can happen. So we got to stay disciplined, smart, disciplined, poised, and keep an eye on number what? What number is Malachi Toney? 7? 10?
10. Obviously, the engine of their offense, you spent a ton of time talking about Mark Fletcher, but Shamar Brown's been getting some play in the playoffs too, and he's looked really good. Carson Beck has obviously made a ton of plays. I go to him running over the Ohio State guy for a first down, putting his body on the line. It's just that's the type of play you need from him if they're going to win football games, and he's doing it. Their defense also starts with the lines. We talked about Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor. Neither of those guys recorded a sack in the last game, which is pretty interesting. But it's also how Corey Heatherman uses them as well. Again, back to the Ohio State game. Ohio State's biggest weakness was their right guard position. And what did Corey Heatherman do on the first third down of the game is he lined up Bain and Mesidor both over the right guard and tormented that poor kid. And they both met basically at Julian Saint. And it was like, oh, my God, this guy's an absolute demon. But we have our work cut out for ourselves on the defense on that side.
If they pull that shit on us, I don't know, like, if they put Ruben Bain and Mesidor on Bray Lynch, like they could probably get to the quarterback. But is that going to work? Like we see that. Like, are we not just going to throw it outside to
immediately
to Pons?
That's got to be. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that's one of the first things.
Did you see we played Pons on offense last game? Did you see that?
It was awesome.
It was so sick. I was like, is that?
I wouldn't be surprised to see it again.
Is that Pons? I was like,
it was the same thing. I was like, oh my God, that's Pons.
Like Brad Pitt with the beer in his trailer from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He was like, hey.
That's Leo. Come on.